PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Do you ever feel like you're normal and the rest of the world has lost its collective mind?
Put your helmet on. We'll be reaching speeds of 3.
Do you find people saying this to you a lot?
Are you totally deranged?
Are you looking for a looking glass to pass through?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Or looking for a rabbit hole to fall down?
Who could think of a better punishment, really? Everything's the same here. It's just a little worse.
Guess what?
Life's a bitch. Now so am I.
You found it. Welcome to Platinum Rose's Garden.
Well, hello, my darlings. This is Platinum Rose Lady welcoming you to Platinum Rose's Garden on Sunday, March 11th, 2018. Okay, this has been an interesting week, kids. For those of you who don't know, although I've mentioned it numerous times, I live in the great and glorious state of Massachusetts, and up here, the weather, we have a saying about the weather, if you don't like it, wait 2 minutes, it'll change. And some people think, oh, ha, ha, how quaint. This is not a joke. It can be a beautiful day one day, and then the next day it's pouring rain or snow or hail or all three or, whatever. So we had plenty of warning this time that there was a nor'easter on the way. And so, it was like, okay, so it's going to be terrible weather. And we were notified that we were going to be allowed to come in late to work on Thursday. So we're like, all right, so they said, we can come in 2 hours late. So it was like, okay, so, I slept in a little bit later than normal, and my guy and I get ready for work, and, we get a cab to the train station, and he checks his phone, because we work in different, places in the same building, and he gets a text from his boss, oh, work's been canceled. It was like, what? I mean, it was one of those look at it in the bright side kind of things. We were only a little ways toward work. We hadn't gone as far as we usually do. But it was like, we kind of looked at each other and it was like, so we go home? And it was like, yeah, we go home. Okay, so home we went. And it was, pretty sloppy, messy day, after that. The next day was, trying to get around without slipping and falling on your face and stuff like that. So that's fun. And now we're looking down the barrel of possibly another nor'easter, but we have to say and I'm definitely one of these people, you have to kind of count your blessings where you can. A lot of people in our state, didn't have power for quite a long time. I mentioned last week, being at my church and going through service in the dark. That was fun. That was the most surreal experience I've ever had in church. Trying to preach in the darkness by light of cell phone in a big bulky coat because we have no heat. And it was just weird, man. But I hope everybody's got their power back on. I hope everybody had a great week. I try not to get too serious here on my show, because I like to be, a fun place where people can listen to, a show that's not about politics and blah, blah, and all this stuff like that. But there is one thing that I want to bring up that really, really bothers me. And this has been bothering me for a very long time, and I've brought it up other places before, but I'm bringing it up here because it's my show. I absolutely cannot stand the idea that this is a man thing and this is a woman thing. Now, I'm not talking about obvious stuff like peeing standing up or stuff like that, but what drives me insane is when people say, well, you can't like blah, 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 because that's a boy thing. Or boys can't do blah, 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 because that's a girl thing. You know, and that drives me completely and utterly mental. It is the year of our Lord 2018. Why aren't we beyond this point? I bring this up because one of the people that I follow on Twitter had posted a message, and at the time I posted back and was being positive to the person because I really feel this way, but it makes me really, really angry that anybody would treat another kid like this. This woman on Twitter has a young daughter, and her daughter was afraid to wear her Star Wars shirt to school because she was worried about being teased because Star Wars is a boy thing. And I wrote back and said, you know, tell her to, you know, wear what she likes and be proud and be positive and just, you know, go out there and, you know, and I feel that way. I really do, because I remember being there. Although it wasn't a girl-boy thing back then so much, it was just, you know, I was in an environment where science fiction really wasn't, you know, it wasn't really thought of as a thing that, you know, cool kids were into, you know. And since I really didn't give a fuck about that kind of stuff, I didn't really care. I had a C-3PO necklace and an R2-D2 necklace, and I wore what I liked and did what I wanted, and, you know, basically followed the tenets of the Book of Digidex back then. And if you don't know what that is, go ask your kids. I'm still a proud follower of the Book of Digidex. But it just really pisses me off that we are still at this stupid, you know, this level of, well, girls can't like Star Wars because it's a boy thing, or boys can't, you know, a boy shouldn't want to learn how to cook because that's a girl thing. And I'm like, what the actual, we really haven't gotten beyond this point? Really? Really? I mean, I've talked online about this before, and I've had some younger women say to me, oh, well, that's never happened to me. You know why it never happened to you? Because people like me made sure it wouldn't happen with you anymore because we were first. What I'm talking about is being a woman and going into a comic book store and feeling like everybody's eyes are on you with this look like, what are you doing here? You know, and that is such bullshit. We need to quit this crap. And it does happen with Supernatural as well, and that makes me really sad. Nobody should ever feel like because you're a dude, you're weird because you watch Supernatural. I mean, that's complete crap. If you want to watch Supernatural and you identify as a guy, you know, fine. If you want, you know, if you identify as a woman, fine. If you want to identify as a mongoose, fine. You know, as long as you're someone who watches Supernatural and enjoys it, and please don't hate watch. The whole hate watch thing mystifies me. Why you would want to make yourself angry and sit there and pick a show apart and waste time like that, I don't get it. And, you know, those people should just go away. But, you know, if you're enjoying something and you find it an outlet to be creative, why are we still at a point where it's, oh, well, that's a girl thing, that's a guy thing? It aggravates me to no end. If your daughter wants to be a Star Wars fan, let her. If your son wants to watch My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, let him. If your daughter wants to play with G.I. Joes, great. If your son wants to play with Barbies, that's not the greatest body image in the world, but let him! You know, it's just, it aggravates me to no end that we haven't moved beyond this point as a species. It's so frustrating. There's just so many things about humanity that I still kind of look at and go, you know, people always say, people who don't believe in the idea of extraterrestrial life, they're always like, their big argument is, well, if there was extraterrestrial life out there, why doesn't it make itself known to us? To which my response is, why should they? You know, these are beings that are intelligent enough to create, ships that can break the speed of light and sound and all that stuff, and they're going to make themselves known to us, who still rely on fossil fuel and still kill each other over dumb, ridiculous reasons? I wouldn't make myself known. I'm sorry. And am I a weirdo because I believe in aliens? Fine, I'm a weirdo because I believe in aliens. Because just simply put, the idea that this is the only planet in the entire Milky Way galaxy that supports life is not only arrogant, it's horrifying, considering how badly we fucked up the little blue marble we live on. But some of us have to be optimistic about stuff like that. Speaking of optimism and beautiful things, I want to speak on, that definitely brings me to this week's fanfic of the week. Okay, this fanfic of the week is a little different than normal, because this person, as of right now, does not have a fanfiction.net account, which they should, because they're awesome, and their writing should be everywhere, and everybody should read it because it's amazing. I know their name is Jennie. I'm assuming it's pronounced Jennie. Jennie wrote a story called Jam Session. Jennie is someone you can follow on Twitter. If you look for her name on Twitter, which is that little @ symbol, followed by Dean Isn't Fine. Capital D, capital I, capital F. Please follow this person because they're a really great person and they're super nice and cool. It's hosted by her. It's on a site on Tumblr. The fic is it's hosted by a friend of theirs. It's Shiny L Friends Tumblr. Jeannie wrote this story called Jam Session, and it's on this other person's Tumblr. I will have the link in the show notes. It is... I'm sorry, I'm not going to get emotional. I'm not. I am a very emotional person, in case you couldn't tell. But it takes a great deal to get me to cry over a story. I mean, cry. I don't mean just, the odd blinking away tears in my eyes. I mean actually tears pouring down my face as I'm reading this story, but I'm reading it with this smile on my face. It is a beautiful story that Jeannie has written, and it is... I don't want to give anything away about the story. I don't want to give away what it's about. I want you to go read it. And I want you to see how amazing and beautiful and incredible this story is. It is sad. I will, I will not lie to you guys, and I won't bullshit you. It is sad, and it is dealing, spoiler alert, it is dealing with character death, so if you can't deal with that, but I hope you will gird your collective loins enough to go read it. It is, the artwork is amazing that goes along with the story. There's some great photography, but it's the actual words that make up this story are so incredibly, unbearably, heart-achingly beautiful. So please go check out Jam Session by Jennie. If you do go check it out, please leave her a review. Drop her a line on Twitter at the @ Dean Isn't Fine. And I can't say enough amazing things about this story. Please, please, please go read it. And speaking of Supernatural, that takes us to this week's Supernatural episode recap.
Carry on my
Season 13, Episode 15 of Supernatural, A Most Holy Man. Then is dealing with all the really important stuff we've been dealing with this season that doesn't have precisely to do with Jack, in the fact that Mary was dragged into the apocalypse world by Lucifer, and the resulting plan that the Winchesters and Castiel have put together, with help from Donatello, translating the demon tablet, about getting a spell together so that they can open a portal, rescue Mary and Jack, and get them home, and keep Michael, the other Michael, from invading this universe, or the supernatural universe, I suppose is the best way to put it. And now we are at Now, and Now is actually somewhere quite far off. Now is in the country of Malta, at a monastery in Malta, where we see some nuns in a monastery, which doesn't make any sense to me. I would think that would be a nunnery, but, maybe, I don't know. We see a gentleman sneaking around, and he makes it into a specific room where there's obviously all these very important relics, and relics being religious items. And one of the more important ones, from the look of it, is a skull that's in a glass cabinet. The guy smashes the skull and takes the skull and goes to leave, and finds that he's not alone in the room any longer. There is a nun there, and he strikes her and makes off with the skull. I'm like, dude, you just hit a nun. You are so going to hell. And we get the opening credits, and we get the Bat Cave in Lebanon, Kansas. We find out from Sam and Dean's discussion that Castiel is currently in Syria trying to get one of the ingredients for the spell that they will need to open this bridge between worlds. Cass is looking for a fruit from the tree of life. And Sam's been on his computer trying to looking for the other ingredients of the spell, which include the Seal of Solomon, as I previously mentioned, the fruit from the tree of life, and also one of the other things that they need for the spell is the grace of an archangel, which we don't know how they're going to get that, because they don't know where Lucifer is, even though we know where Lucifer is currently in heaven, and they don't know that Gabriel is still alive. Dad? Sorry, that's one of my... I think I'm related to a trickster. I'm not sure it's that trickster, but I'm pretty sure. Anyway, and the blood of a most holy man. Sam's really not sure what the ingredients, like he's trying to find out what the ingredients are, like what the blood of a most holy man means. Sam's speculating that it might mean the blood of a saint. And he's found that there are quite a number of sites online that are dealing in religious artifacts. Most of them are fakes, but one person seems to be on the up and up, at least with the veracity of her claims that these, are the real deals and not just cheap knockoffs. A woman named Margaret Astor, who is operating out of San Francisco. So Sam and Dean make their way out to the city by the bay and meet with this woman who gets very handsy with Sam, flirting with him and, touching his hand and being very like, oh, I'm sure we can work something out, blink, blink, I'm not going to diss another woman's attempt at flirting, since my idea of flirting is, hi, you're hot, want to do it? I'm not built for being coquettish. I just can't make it work. But watching this bitch paw at my Sam, I'm sorry, that tends to get my spirit animal pretty angry. And since I'm pretty sure my spirit animal is a bear, nobody wants to go there. My spirit animal is either a bear or Godzilla. I'm not really sure which. Sam, who is not a dummy, knows that, he needs to kind of turn on the charm. So he's not really flirting back per per se, but he's definitely not, like, shrinking back when she's touching him. Although watching Dean's eyes roll so far back into his head that they almost fall out his ears is kind of funny. Because I think he's kind of pissed that this woman she's very dismissive of him. And I'm like, you've got two hot guys and you don't want to be like, I'll take you both on? You're not very hardcore like some of us. Me. Anyway, she says that she knows someone who might have the blood of a saint because they explain that's what they're looking for. And as she says, it's a gentleman named Richard Greenstreet who is operating out of Seattle. The problem is when Sam and Dean show up to try and meet with Mr. Greenstreet, he susses them out pretty quickly, catches them in a lie about knowing a family from Rhode Island, and also knows that they're not, dismisses them as not having the kind of money that's going to be involved with buying the blood of a saint, because he's saying that it cost him quite a bit of money. He says that he's not interested in selling, even if they had the money, but if Sam and Dean were able to procure a specific item for him, he might be a little bit more open-minded. That he is looking for a skull that was stolen from Malta. And specifically, that the person that stole the skull is working for a gentleman named Santino Scarpetti, a name that Dean recognizes as being a mob boss. So yeah, this is somebody that you'd probably want to get on the bad side of course. The thing is, as it turns out, the skull that was stolen is quite important. The skull is supposedly the skull of St. Peter. Now, I know for some people that's probably not a terribly big deal, but if you're Catholic, it's a rather large deal because St. Peter was one of the 12 apostles, and it was Peter that Jesus said, "On this rock you will build my church." I'm paraphrasing that line, I'm sorry. St. Peter was believed and is believed by Catholics to be the first pope of the Roman Catholic Church. So that's someone who's a big deal. Mr. Greenstreet says that the blood that he has, when Sam and Dean ask him about it, Dean's like, okay, if we steal this skull for you, what are you giving us back? And Mr. Greenstreet says that he has in his possession the blood of Saint Ignatius. Saint Ignatius was a Basque priest who was the founder of the Order of the Jesuits. So obviously that's someone who's a very big deal, also known as Saint Ignatius of Loyola. So apparently they have a deal with this guy. Sam is not really crazy about doing this. The whole idea of dealing with mobsters and not really knowing if any of these people actually have what they're saying they have. But Dean's attitude is, what choice have we got? While they're in a cafe in Seattle, Dean's attempt at flirting with a young woman who's reading a book about demons is blocked by Sam calling him over because Sam's got his computer out. He's been looking up airplane, times and stuff like that, and reading the passenger manifestos. I'm assuming involving hacking, I guess. I don't know. Is that information just out there where people can look it up? I don't know. I'm such a dimwit when it comes to computers, and I admit that. I always say my guy's the technical wonder in our relationship. I'm just around to look cute. Anyway, Sam finds out that a gentleman named Antonio Miele had recently returned from Malta and is staying in a hotel that's close by. So the Winchesters go to the hotel, and as they're going into the elevator, Sam bumps into a gentleman that doesn't apologize, even though Sam says, "Excuse me." They go up to the guy's room, find the door opened, and the room ransacked, and Mr. Miele is in the room, quite dead. And Sam and Dean are like looking around the room trying to check out what killed the guy when they're ambushed by a gentleman that flashes a badge and has them handcuff themselves to a radiator. But all the questions that they keep saying, like, where's your partner? You know, they keep trying to get the guy to say, you know, who, you know, which precinct is he with? Aren't you going to call this in? The guy's basically kind of blowing off all their remarks, and besides Dean almost getting shot, both Sam and Dean are tweaking on really quickly to the fact that this dude is not a police officer. And after the guy leaves, Sam pulls out a set of skeleton keys and they quickly get out of the room. They leave the hotel, but they're being watched by, as it turns out, the guy from the elevator, the gentleman with kind of grayish hair that Sam had bumped into. When the Winchesters get outside, they are met at Baby by a couple of rather unpleasant-looking types. You know the types I mean. Who tell them that Mr. Scarpetti wants to meet with them. It's not a request, and that one of them is going to drive them to the meeting, driving Baby, which Dean looks like he wants to rip the guy's head firmly off of his body, but there are gentlemen that have guns, and, you know. So this guy winds up driving Baby, and I hope he enjoyed it. The meeting with Mr. Scarpetti is awkward and tense because, as Scarpati, I suppose is the correct way to say it, it's tense because Dean, being Dean, is, you know, trying to be very much like, we're not impressed with you, you know, kind of a deal. And also being like, well, you want us to steal something that you had stolen in the first place, you know. Although Mr. Scarpetti is pretty impressed by the fact that, you know, Dean apparently has balls made of adamantium. He also has done a little research on Sam and Dean and knows that Sam and Dean Winchester were supposed to have died 6 years ago. Back in the whole mess with the Leviathans. / fiction and all that. So if they wind up getting killed now, it's not really going to be that big of a deal, you know, but it turns out that he wants them, he knows about the fact that they've been dealing with Richard Greenstreet, and that he says that the skull was stolen from the guy that he had go to Malta and steal it, Mr. Miele, and now the Winchesters are being hired by him to get the skull for him, or else. The Winchesters head back to the hotel, which now has police all over the place, including a police officer in front of the door to the thief's room. Dean creates a distraction by pulling a bunch of the fire alarms, and, you know, obviously fire alarms go off, everybody leaves, including the police officer guarding the room. Sam manages to get into the room to try and look around and find out any information that he can. It doesn't look like he's finding all that much, but he does find something. It turns out it's a piece of paper with a bunch of letters and numbers on it, but before he can do anything about it, as he's getting up off the ground, he looks up at the mirror and sees somebody behind him. Too late, the person grabs a landline phone that was on the, you know, one of those hotel phones, and clocks Sam in the head with it, knocking him out. What the actual fuck, show? This is like the 85th time this season that Sam's been hit in the head. And I'm just like, yeah! I'm so, alright, it's more like 5, I think, possibly 4, but I think it might be 5. But I'm like, you hit Sam in the head with a phone. You fucking asshole! I don't know who you are, dude, but I am not your biggest fan right now. Needless to say, Sam gets knocked unconscious. The guy winds up leaving the hotel, but as he's leaving, he's followed by the fake cop who's been hanging around outside. Dean comes into the hotel room, finds Sam lying there out cold, and we do get a Sammy asking, he's trying to figure out if Sam's alright, and he does call him Sammy, and of course I squee because, hello, Sam is on. When the Winchesters get outside, during which time Dean's trying to make sure that Sam's not concussed, and compares Sam's hair to, the reason that Sam's not concussed is because Sam has hair like a Disney princess. Rude. Possibly accurate, but still rude. They hear the sounds of a scuffle, and they find the guy that hit Sam lying on the ground, and for a minute we think, oh man, he's dead. Oh no, wait, he's not. As it turns out, the guy that clocked Sam is a priest. He is a priest from, he's assigned, excuse me, he's assigned to the church in Malta. His name is Father Luca Camilleri. I hope I said that even closer right. I'm going to call him Father Luca for the rest of the synopsis, so bear with that. And I realize, oh my gosh, I've been sitting here screaming and yelling and swearing at a priest. Oh, I feel really bad right now. It's the whole Catholic guilt thing. Father Luca has shown up because he's been trying to get, he's shown up in America, and he found the piece of paper from Sam, and he came not to steal the skull back. He had a case with him. He's been carrying his case with him, and it turns out he's shown up to buy the skull back. Sam and Dean open up the case that's with him, and it's full of money. European money, euros or whatever I don't know if they use euros in Malta. Anybody from Malta? Can you tell me what you use? I don't know if you use euros or not. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about Malta. I'm sorry. As it turns out, he is a priest, as I said, and he's actually a nice guy. He's a real stand-up dude. As the Winchesters take him with them and they're talking in the car, he's one of these people that he knows the world isn't perfect, but, no, they're not in the car yet, I'm sorry. As they're talking, he's telling them that, he knows the world isn't perfect, and he's of the opinion that the world can change, but only if people, work at it. You have to work at making things better. He says every day can get better. I'm sorry. I know I talk too much. I just want to go home. And Sam's of the opinion, okay, every other plan we had, that gets tossed out the window. We're helping this priest get the skull back. To which, Dean's kind of like, wait, what? I'm totally like, yes, Sam, because that's the right thing to do, because you're just awesome. Sigh. I know, I'm a Samazon, I know. And I'm not saying Dean was being unkind or unfair or anything like that, but, he's trying to think of what's going to get their mom back. But, they have a private conversation for a second, the Winchesters, and Sam asks him if someone had taken baby, what would he do about it? Dean's answer is murder. I'd murder them all. And when Sam keeps talking, Dean's still stuck on the whole idea of somebody stealing baby, talking about, torturing them and all this stuff like that. And the end of it being, if I can't have it, nobody can. And Sam kind of realizes, oh, I kind of put him in a little white noise place. He kind of waves his hand in front of his brother and realizes, oh, I just kind of put him in a not good place. We need to concentrate on the case at hand. So obviously don't even speculate about the idea of somebody taking baby away from Dean. That's a terrible idea. they get in the car, and they're driving, and Father Luca's sitting in the back seat. And Father Luca apparently has an excellent memory, must be from all that, priestly duties of remembering Bible verses and all that stuff that priests do, because he remembers what was on the scrap of paper that Sam had found and that he had taken from Sam, which was also taken from him. All these letters and numbers and stuff like that, it's not a combination, it's not anything like that, it's a tracking number. It's one of those numbers that you get if you order something from FedEx or whatever, and they give you this number so you can track where your package is. Ain't technology grand? So we see the fake cop showing up at the location where the package is being held, and he picks up the package. The Winchesters and Father Luca follow him, and the Winchesters observe a meeting between the fake cop and Margaret Astor at this building. This looks like kind of like a warehouse kind of a deal. And Miss Astor is meeting with the mob boss, Mr. Scarpati, and it turns out also they're not the only ones there, that Mr. Greenstreet is there as well, along with the thing in the package, which is the skull of St. Peter. Father Luca, we see Father Luca sitting in the car with Dean. Sam isn't there, and I have a bad feeling where Sam is. And they're talking about, what they're doing and what's going to happen and stuff like that. When the father talks to Dean and asks him if he is a believer or not, and Dean responds that he knows about God, but he tells the father that, God doesn't care about him or me or anybody. And he says, he tells the priest that if he's expecting a miracle, good luck with that. The father's answer is that he doesn't expect God to just reach down and make everything all right. He believes that all good things are God's things, and that what he and Sam are doing, that it's a good thing. Dean's response is, yeah, or a stupid thing. And Father Luca's response to that is, or both. Many times they can be the same. And that is true. Sometimes an incredibly good thing, an incredibly brave thing, is also an incredibly stupid thing. That doesn't make it any less good or less brave. I mean, that's anything from the scene at the end of Star Wars with the battle when the X-Wings are trying to blow up the Death Star, that kind of a deal. I mean, that was brave and good, but it was also completely friggin' insane. It's and everything once again revolves back to Star Wars, because I'm a nerd, hooray! Back inside the building, Sam is dragged into the spotlight by a guard. He's got Father Luca's briefcase full of money and says that he's there on his own. He's not acting on Mr. Greenstreet or the mob boss's behalf. He's there for himself. And he wants in on the idea of being able to buy this skull. And he has his coat opened a little bit so that his phone is exposed enough that Dean and the father can hear through the speaker, from Sam's phone to Dean's phone, which is resting on baby's dash. And when Sam says something about let's make a deal, that's obviously a signal, and Father Luca and Dean get out of the car. So we see Father Luca walking up to one of the guards, and when the guard asks what he's doing there, he says creating a distraction while Dean incapacitates him. And Dean's a little bit ticked off, and Father admits, lying is a sin. I mean, he has a point, but I do think God would give you a pass this time, Father. Just saying. I'm kind of like, you're really bad at, the whole sneaking up on people stuff, I guess. But, you're a priest, not a ninja. Miss Astor has decided the way she wants to decide who's going to get the skull is that she wants the three men to write down the amount of money that they're willing to pay for it, and whoever writes down the highest amount of money is going to get the skull. So the gentlemen write down the amounts of money, and Sam's amount is pretty high, not astronomically high when you consider it's the skull of St. Peter, but it's still quite a bit of money, although the others scoff at it. Mr. Scarpati's amount is pretty high too, but Mr. Greenstreet writes down a big fat goose egg. And the reason he's doing that is because he has apparently been dealing with the fake cop who has been working for Miss Astor, and the fake cop winds up shooting Miss Astor in the back and killing her, which leads to an enormous firefight going on inside the building. Everybody's shooting at everybody, and people are getting shot dead everywhere while Father Luca is praying. Father Luca manages to stop Sam from being shot by grabbing the gun from one of the mobster's goons, but he winds up being shot, but thankfully the bullet just grazes him. And it turns out everybody else except for the Winchesters, Father Luca, and Mr. Greenstreet are killed. The mob boss is shot dead, and all his guards are shot dead. Everybody else is shot dead except our heroes and Mr. Greenstreet, who, as it turns out, is lying. He never had the blood of Saint Ignatius. He had mentioned something about chicanery earlier on, and Dean brings that term up again, and then says, chicane this, and winds up having Mr. Greenstreet eat his knuckles. You really deserve that, dude. Seriously. We come back from commercial, and Mr. Greenstreet is being hauled away by the police. I don't know what the heck kind of story he's going to be able to tell, or if he's going to implicate Sam and Dean, or if they believe the guy with whatever happens. We see Sam and Dean saying goodbye to Father Luca, and they're talking with him, and he tells them that Sam had been doing some research earlier about Father Luca to find out if he really was who he said that he was. And Sam brings up that he was reading about him, and Sam asks him, one of the terms that was brought up about Father is that he is a profundary apostolic supernumerary. And I'm Catholic and I don't know what that means. As it turns out, this is a title that is bestowed on priests. It's by the Pope. It is considered to be a very, it's a huge honor. It's the highest rank of a Monsignor you can be. It actually doesn't even exist anymore. It doesn't, it was discontinued. The Pope no longer gives them this out. It stopped in 2014. It turns out that it's a very high honor. Dean's, impressed, as it turns out that this gentleman met the Pope at some point. And Father is, Father Luca's pretty casual, not casual. He's modest about it, but he's, how can you not be kind of proud and humbled about the fact that proud and humbled at the same time, that you met the Pope? And he tells them that the Pope had called him un uomo santissimo. And when Sam asks what that means, Father Luca says it means a most holy man. And Sam and Dean look at each other, and Dean says that they have one more thing to ask of him before he leaves. We cut back to the Bat Cave, and Sam and Dean are sitting in one of the, looks more like one of the research rooms or something. It's not one of the main rooms. And they've got a small bottle with some of Father Luca's blood. And we get a discussion between Sam and Dean, an actual real discussion, where Sam asks if what they're doing is even worth anything. He says, you ever feel like we're doing nothing but playing defense? Bouncing from one apocalypse to the next? Dean's response is, well, it's not exactly our call. Sam answers, I know that, and I'm not saying we don't do good, but no matter how many people we save, there will be more people that need saving. No matter how many monsters we kill, Dean answers, there's always going to be another one around the corner. Sam says, exactly. Do you think we could ever change things? I mean, really change things? Stop all the monsters? All the bad? Dean answers, that would be nice. Sam says, yeah. So what are you thinking? Think that'll work? Dean kind of looks at him and smiles. I mean, not a big smile, but it's a smile. It's not my spirit's completely broken look that we've seen from Dean so many times and breaks all our hearts. And Dean's answer is an echo to Father Luca when Dean says, I have faith. And the episode ends. Wow, I loved this episode. I give A Most Holy Man 4.5 bouquets out of 5. This episode meant so much to me. Absolutely meant so much to me on a movie fan level, besides the fact that I adore Jared and Jensen. I also loved the fact that at one point in the episode, Dean was making a remark about how he just felt something, and Sam's doing the whole, you just feel it. It's like, he's like being a bratty little brother. And I thought that was just really funny. And the fact at the end, when there was this real brother feeling about this. For all the fact that Sam's, 6'4" and, muscles out the lang, and strong and smart and intelligent and brave and good and kind and hot. Sorry. He's still a person. He still has doubts, and he's still Dean's little brother. And sometimes little brothers want to hear from their big brothers that everything's going to somehow be okay. And I loved that. Robert Singer and Andrew Dabb did a great job with this episode. On the writing end of things. For me, it was huge because, as I mentioned, I am a movie fan. One of my favorite movie genres is film noir. I love noir movies. I am a huge Humphrey Bogart fan. One of my favorite movies, The Maltese Falcon. And this had some lovely, lovely touches in it. You had Richard Greenstreet, who was named after Sidney Greenstreet, the actor that brought to life Caspar Gutman, also known as the Fat Man, in The Maltese Falcon. And Margaret Astor, who is a play on Mary Astor, who was also in The Maltese Falcon. She played femme fatale Bridget O'Shaughnessy. Those little touches were just fantastic. I love them to bits. I also want to bring up a couple of people in the episode that I really, really adore. Father Luca Calmieri was played by a gentleman named Massi Furlan. And I think you're fantastic, sir. I really, really loved your take on the character, and I really hope somehow, some way, we get to see Father Luca again. I hope at some point he gets to come back, somehow. Writers, make it happen at some point, please. Also, I want to bring up, Richard Greenstreet was played by a gentleman named Dominic Burgess, or Burgess. I don't know how your name is pronounced exactly, sir, and I'm sorry. I saw Dominic. Most recently, the place I saw Dominic and went, wow, this guy is really amazing, was in the show, the FX show Feud, which I happened to binge on Netflix. For those of you who didn't get a chance to see Feud, if you get a chance, I definitely suggest seeing it. It is looking back at the making of the film Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and the feud between the actresses that were the stars, Joan Crawford and Bette Davis. Dominic came into the series, into the miniseries a little later on in the series, playing the actor Victor Buono, who played the character Edwin Flagg in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Dominic was amazing in that show. He is just awesome in this episode of Supernatural. You can see him also. He's been on The Flash. He's been on other shows, and he's got some other stuff coming out. He is a terrific actor, and I love him. I love his work, and I'd love, maybe someday Mr. Greenstreet could come back too, looking for vengeance on Sam and Dean. That would be really awesome. So now we have one of the materials that is going to be required for the spell. So now we need the Seal of Solomon, the Grace of an Archangel, and Fruit from the Tree of Life. And I don't think you're going to find any of that stuff on eBay. But you never know. Supernatural is not on this coming week, and the following week it is a repeat. It is this Thursday, the 15th, which is also my guy's birthday. They're having a Tough Mudder special on the CW. On the 22nd, Supernatural has a repeat episode, the episode Devil's Bargain. And on the 29th, Supernatural will be back with an all-new episode, the one that everybody has been talking about ever since it's been announced. Sam and Dean get sucked into another dimension, but it's one that's actually kind of familiar to some of us anyway. And things are going to get rather animated. I'm so sorry. Scooby Natural on the 29th of March. Hold on to your hats, folks. This is going to get weird. Okay, before I ride off into the sunset, I have a couple of things that I need to let you guys know about. I hope that if you do like my show, you will like, share, and subscribe and do all that fun stuff and let other people know that I'm out here. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at PlatinumRoseLady at Twitter.com. You can find my fanfic on fanfiction.net over and go search in the author search thing, look Platinum Rose Lady up, and I'm there. You can find my stuff. If you have any comments, questions, queries, complaints, anything you'd like to send my way, platinumroselle@yahoo.com. I hope you'll do that. And I hope you will check out the other shows that I am involved with on the interwebs. One of them is another solo show of mine. It is called Ring Around the Rosie at ringaroundtherosie.net. I am a wrestling fan, have been one for 30 plus years, so I have quite a number of stories to tell and opinions about stuff. So if you'd like to check it out at ringaroundtherosie.net, I hope you will do so. There are also the shows that I do with my dear, sweet, long-suffering husband, TC, who is the light of my life and the butter to my bread and a great person. Those would include Subject Cinema over at subjectcinema.com. It is our movie podcast, and this month, oh boy, oh Lord, this month we are in the midst of masochistic March. Every March we look at bad movies on purpose. This month we are looking at Star Wars ripoffs. This week's show is all about a movie from Japan called Message from Space. Oh my gosh, did this movie hurt. Wow. This was a whole different level of pain. And come over and suffer with us, won't you, at subjectcinema.com. TC has a solo show as well. It's called Catastrophe Vortex. If you love disaster movies, you can check out his stuff. He's very knowledgeable and very personable and awful cute. There are also his mini shows. which would be Tuesday Digidex and 3-Day Weekend, which are shows looking at movies coming out, this week, either on video or, DVD, direct to DVD releases or direct to, on demand, and movies coming out in the theater, so you can plan your time. We also have Front Row 5 and 10, which is our list show. And this past week we're looking at each of us gave a top 10 list of most pretentious movies. So I hope you'll go check that out. It's a lot of fun. And we have other members of our family as well, and we hope you'll check them out, of our podcasting family. They would include Eric and Valerie over at Cavebabble. They're great people, and they talk about movies and games, and Cavebabble eats odd things and stuff like that. They're super fun over at cavebabble.com. And there's Comic Grotto with Aunt B and Pee Wee, two guys that love comics and love comic book movies. This past week they sent us their review of the new Marvel movie Black Panther, which if you haven't seen it yet, see it, because holy crap, it's awesome. So I think that'll just about do it. Oh wait, one more thing. As I had mentioned, this coming week is my guy's birthday. And TC is one of these people that is, he's my soulmate. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. He's my soulmate. He is sweet and kind and smart and funny and talented and puts up with me, so he's patient. And he's just all around the best guy I ever met. And his birthday is coming up. I won't say how old he is, but he's older than me. So I would just like to say to him, from the bottom of my heart, happy birthday, Mayim Zadi. I love you. Mwah. So, now that mushy crap's out of the way. No, I'm just kidding. It's not crap. It's from my heart, and I mean it. This is Platinum Rose Lady signing off for another week. I will be gone for the next 2 weeks, but I will be back at the end of the month after we've all, spent some time in the Scooby-verse. I'm deeply afraid. Somebody hold me. And I hope you guys will have a great rest of the month. And make sure you hug the ones you love the ones you hug, and take some time to stop and smell the roses. Bye now.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.